You're listening to Out Late with David. True stories of coming out later in life. And now here's your host, David Cotton.
Hello, this is Out Late with David, because it's never too late to live your truth. Today's guest spent decades trying to hold together two competing truths: his love for his family and a reality about himself he desperately did not want to be true. After years of counseling, faith struggles, secrecy, and the fear of losing everything, he finally came out at age 57. He navigated a collaborative divorce and ultimately found a new chapter that includes love and authenticity. David Anderson, welcome to Out Late with David.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
When people meet you today, what's the biggest thing they would never guess about your journey?
Probably my faith journey that has followed alongside my coming out journey. That's probably the most surprising thing, because we were completely all in, taught, ministered, paid ministry, everything, and then the gay part came out, and it was like, oh, interesting. And then as I've kind of stepped away from my faith, that's probably been even more shocking. And I live in Texas. So in Texas, it's even harder to say you're not a Christian anymore than it is to say you're gay, actually. So that may be it.
Okay. So before coming out, what did your life look like from the outside?
Yeah. So kind of perfect family. So I was married for 35 years, 4 kids, and great kids, great family. We had lived overseas for a while doing ministry. We had come back home, worked in the corporate world, and just, we were involved, like I said, in church and everything else. And just our kids still are great to this day. But at the time, we're great kids. And everybody was like, wow, that is kind of like the picture perfect family. That's kind of the ones that we want to be. And I think not that it was crumbling from the inside, so we'll probably talk about, but I have a really strong, good, loving feelings towards my ex. We had a great marriage. Had I not been gay, one of us would have died in the other's arms. But this thing just kept coming back and back and back and back. And finally, I couldn't continue to do that.
How did it keep coming back and back and back and back?
Yeah. So, at first it was thoughts. And then it was, oh, well, the internet is alive now, and there were pictures, and before you knew, there were chat rooms, and before you knew, there were, videos and all those kind of things. And there was I remember literally saying in my head, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. It was kind of obsessive, honestly.
To do what? What's the...
To be with a man. I had to. It was just impossible to put it down. And probably because I fed it, right, to a certain extent. But then it was like, no, this is who I really am. It was like discovering what I always knew, but it was discovering what it had to be. And so the first time I was with somebody, it was fireworks. It was absolute fireworks. Unbelievable. And so then it just, I'm not proud of the fact, honestly, that I was unfaithful during my marriage. But every single time that I was unfaithful, I was remorseful. I was repentant, to use a church word. I was never going to do that again. That is the end. And then it would build and build and build and build. And
was it that faith connection that kept you in that loop all the time? That was the biggest force?
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about prayer, just begging God to make this thing go away. In fact, I have, former friends, I would call them today, that I knew well. Right. And, the whole idea of we'll be your friend again once you repent. And I've told them, you've never prayed for anything in your life harder than I prayed to not be gay. And I did not find my way out of that.
Well, you once said, I want this life. I don't want the life as a gay man. What did you mean by that when you said that?
So I have a family member who I love dearly who asked me kind of a similar question, like, why didn't you this person is young, And they said, why didn't you just, live as a gay man? And I said, when I was in high school, and so the 80s, what gay meant was, I use this line a lot, but for me, what gay meant was kind of crop top, short shorts, move to San Francisco and die of AIDS. I hate to say it that way, but that is what I was taught and understood. And so I did not want that life. I did not want any part of that. What I wanted was a family. I wanted a house. I wanted the wife. I wanted the dog. I wanted all of the things that go along with that. And honestly, it's almost selfish to say, but I got all of that. And now I have all of this. I almost feel guilty sometimes about how lucky I am and where this whole journey has taken me.
You talked about the religion and the faith and Southern Baptist. So what were some of the other messages you're getting about being gay from that perspective when you wanted the life that you had, but you actually had this ache for something else?
Yeah, just put it away. And I think through therapy, sometimes I learned that men, maybe more stereotypically than women, compartmentalize. And for me, I can remember feeling like, oh, I've done that thing. I'm going to put that back in the box. I'm going to put it way up high on the shelf. And I feel like from a faith perspective, you're supposed to just burn that box. And I couldn't let it go. It wasn't a box. There was nothing in it. But for me, it was that part of my life. And now I can go back and be who I am in the world, and nobody has to know.
So what point in time, or what was the event where you took that box off and said, I can't put it back up on that shelf anymore? I got to embrace it. I got to hold it. I got to keep it.
Yeah. So you said I came out when I was 57. It was about the time I was maybe just turning 57, because I was almost 58 when I came out. And my kids had moved out. They had started their lives. So there was a little bit of that. And I think the biggest thing that I said I can't keep doing this is I started looking at the calendar and saying, with luck, with some really good health luck, I could live 30 more years. And more importantly, my ex-wife could live 30 more years. And am I going to keep up what I'm doing for 30 more years? And does she deserve better? That sounds magnanimous.
So you got into a fairness.
It was in a fairness. Yep.
Okay.
And so maybe there's something that I need to do different. And I started opening that box and saying, what would it look like to actually wear this? And as you know, culturally, it wasn't short, stop. It wasn't all that die of AIDS. And so there was a sense in which there was a freedom to ask the question and to answer it different than I had answered it for a long time.
What did it feel like when you had that realization you could answer the question differently?
It was very scary. So my sister and I are extremely close, and a little bit of a detour. So my wife discovered about 15 years before we divorced some things. And we went through a horrible time, but our kids were small, so we stayed together. At that time, because my sister supported me being a gay man and basically said, oh, well, you're going to get a divorce, right? I mean, you're gay. My wife basically said, you can't, cut off connection. We cut off connection. And so when all of this box started opening again here when I was, turned 57 and started thinking about it, we hadn't spoken for 13 years. And there was a lot of animosity there because I had been so rude with my sister.
You and your sister hadn't spoken, or
right?
Okay.
Me and my sister had not spoken for 13 years. And so I reached out to her and said, you may not be open to this, but I would like to reconnect. And she wasn't very open at first. And she said, are you going to kick me to the curb again if you change your mind? And I remember telling her, I'm going to leave my wife. And so nothing would make me kick you to the curb again. There's not going to be that pressure again that says you have to choose. And so we reconnected pretty quickly, and we have an amazing relationship. So
she's stuck with you since
very
came
much,
out.
Very much.
Did you fear losing connections like that by coming out and with your former spouse or the kids? Which was the greatest fear in all of that?
When I finally came out, I knew for a fact, and nobody knows anything for a fact when it comes to relationships, but I would say as much as a person could know, I knew that the words "I am gay" were exactly identical to "I want a divorce," and that's exactly how it came out. And so There was no surprise there. I wasn't even afraid of that because I knew that.
Mhm.
The fear was more my children.
Mm.
And I've got 4 children, and some of them I expected open arms, and some of them I expected not open arms. And it's been pretty close to that, at least early on. The ones that accepted quickly and loved well. The ones that are still struggling, I mean, they were struggling then, they're struggling now. And so I'm just giving that, some time.
So there's been no major shifts in the, 3 years?
It's been about 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. So I have a couple of kids who embraced me very strongly, and then have been going through, in the last few months, some difficult processing. And I think some of it was, hey, we process it a certain way when you came out in the context of mom and everything else was going on. And then once we got far enough away, I think they finally took it out and said, oh, but this affects me this way. How do I really feel about this? So I'm thrilled to tell you we're finding our way. And it's, I'm very optimistic. I do still have a child that is very, very closed and has been very clear about that. And that was the one that I just from the beginning knew, if I do this, that's the relationship I might lose. And yet I thought, as an adult, her life, their life is not my life anymore.
Right.
And so we're gonna have to make those decisions on our own.
And it's the long game too. You do what you can if you want the relationship to preserve it.
Yes.
Because you don't know what that long perspective is going to be.
And I think since then, it's come out with friends and family and everything else is, so what you really loved is the person I was pretending to be. We're all good as long as I keep playing the game. But if I don't play the game anymore, if I don't wear the mask, if I don't act the certain way, then that's not okay. And, I can see that, especially with a faith background. We shoot our dead, or we shoot our wounded, I guess and so I've done it myself. I've taught lessons about, it's cringy to think.
So in those years where you're trying to keep that box up on the shelf and trying to be a certain person to keep a particular way of being, what did you try? Counseling, support groups, faith-based things. What did you dabble in?
Yeah. Before, I mentioned 15 years ago, my ex found out. Before that, it was more of the faith-based, I struggle with porn, or, just kind of, it was safe. It was like, all the guys in the church could go to this and it'd be fine. And other than that, it was prayer, because I didn't feel like, the way we did our finances together, I couldn't have spent, not that she didn't follow every single thing I ever spent, but she would have known if I spent $100 to go to a counselor. So that was just not an option. And so everything was very private. Once she came out, I went to Sex Addicts Anonymous. I've since discovered I'm not a sex addict. I just like sex. I have found counseling. I've spent counseling after that. I mean, the whole conversion therapy, I asked for conversion from a counselor. I said, I want this to go away. I don't want to be gay. I want to keep my family, especially when my kids were young.
Okay.
I don't want to lose this. And
did you try that, or?
Oh yeah. I would say for 10 years after she found out, I was pretty celibate. I mean, probably 2 years in, there was some pornography, but other than that, I never.
Was that 10 years exhausting? Was it relaxing, exhilarating? What was it?
It was exhausting. It was not relaxing or exhilarating.
How did it affect you in your day-to-day, just walking through life?
So before my wife knew, I feel like I was somewhat expressive in my day-to-day life, meaning in my professional life and with my kids and that kind of thing. When she found out, there was a sense, I don't want to blame, but there was a sense of anything that has the appearance of gay, we got to stop that now. So colorful shirts or being loud in the room or anything like that, we put a big lid on that. There were some relationships that had to be squashed, that kind of thing. And so for 15 years, really 13 years, I went into kind of a shell of me. Just a shadow of me. So coming out, I'm surprised. I shouldn't be, but I'm surprised at how when I came out, so many things in my life changed. Not just who I could be with, but the way I could respond to my children, the way I could be in the workplace, the confidence that came back because I had just withdrawn, would make myself smaller.
Right.
And so to be able to come out and be who I am.
Authentic.
Oh, my
Honest.
God. Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't, again, I know it's done, but I never would have thought that the workplace would have changed. I never would have thought that friends that I sing in a choir with, who don't need to know that. It was just, I was me again.
Mm-hmm.
I have one of my children who said, I haven't seen you like this. I see you so happy, but I just haven't seen you as out, for lack of a better word. I haven't seen you as bloom the way you are. I've just not seen it. It's a younger one of my children. And I said, 13 years ago, how old were you? And that.
So for 13 years, they didn't know the real Dad.
They didn't.
So how does it feel now to be seen by them and recognized?
I can't name anything better. We swear, we drink. I mean, there are things you just don't do as a Southern Baptist, and not a good one. There are people who do that, but they're not good Southern Baptist. I'm being facetious here. That was my understanding. And they swore and they drank, and we were able to share at a level that was unprecedented. We talked about the church. We talked about faith, how they grew up. And there were lots of apologies, and not like, I'm sorry, now we're over this, but tell me more about how that made you feel. And I'm sorry that's all I knew to do at the time or whatever. So very, very, back to that word authentic. It just feels like real people sharing their real lives instead of putting the mask on.
As a life coach, I'm committed to help you discover the passions in your life and help you map a course to achieve the things you really want. Together, we will unwind those persistent self-doubts that are holding you back. You'll begin to see your passions more clearly and set achievable goals. Throughout your journey, I'll be there to challenge and encourage you in moving forward to discover your authentic self. For more information about my personal life coaching services, or to arrange a complimentary consultation, visit davidcottoncoaching.com.
You're listening to Out Late with David.
So what changed in April 2024 when you decided you're a gay man and you're going to embrace that?
So within 6 days, I was in an apartment. That was I had not planned it.
After declaring that you're
April 2024, April 11th, 411, which is kind of an interesting. That's the day I came out with my wife. Over a couple of days, we told each of our kids. She asked me to move out. Completely understandable and completely expected. And so I went looking and I found a wonderful apartment that I live in to this day. Absolutely love it. And I moved in. What else? You asked me what changed.
Yeah. Why that point in time? What was the reason for saying, this is the day we need to declare this?
I don't know if this is interesting or not, but her schedule, she had 3-day weekends. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that I wanted to do it on a Thursday so that she would have as much as possible. Okay. There were some other things that were happening. I had a child that was going to be getting married, but it was after this. And so there was just kind of this window that I wanted to do it soon enough that if possible, if things could settle down a little bit before that, it wouldn't take from center stage and that kind of thing. So there was maybe just some calendaring kind of things. And I just waited. And I actually had a really good friend, an online friend I met once face to face. After all this, he's met my husband, Peter, now. And he said, why are you waiting? What do you think's going to change? And I said, I can't even answer that question. There's nothing that's going to change. And so I think I moved it. At one point, I said, I'm going to wait a year. It was September when I first started talking. I'm going to wait a whole year. And in September, if I still feel this way. And he said, seriously? Are you really going to do that?
What's going to change?
Yeah, so April it was.
Okay. Well, I'll give you kudos for, looking at we said calendaring, but I'd say that's compassionate. I mean,
that was
we stress to guys, do look at the straight spouse or the straight partner and what's the environment they have and what's their support group? Who can they go to and who can they tell and not tell? Did you put any restrictions on her or any part of your conversation about what she could or couldn't do with this new information?
So interesting, maybe just to pre-answer that question, when she found out 13 years ago, because of the shame that she felt,
Okay.
she didn't talk to anyone. It was probably 8 years before we went to counseling. That's the only people she ever told. A person that she told was our counselor. So she never spoke to her close friends. She never spoke, no one. And so when I came out and she knew that it was over, she immediately contacted her close friends. We were couple friends. And so I contacted the guys and said, I need you to know this. She contacted the girls and they rallied around her. I feel like there was a concern early on, if I were to ever come out, that she would, whether it was self-harm or whether it was mental breakdown, I just thought, I don't know what, I think that could happen, not because of any weakness on her part, just a more, or background, maybe I should say. But I just was so worried about that. And I'm thrilled to say that when it came out, she stood stronger than I ever imagined. And I think she got help from those around her and really they helped her.
So it sounds like that was a surprise, the way she reacted.
I was very,
what you expect.
I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, it wasn't easy. You mentioned earlier a collaborative. We did a kind of do-it-yourself divorce. And we talked about, hey, we're going to work through the things. And if we ever get to a point where we can't handle it, we're going to treat it like a business. We're going to say, let's stop, let's back up, let's try again. And if at some point we say we can't do this, then we'll do the attorneys and all that kind of stuff. But a couple of times we disagreed on things. Okay, let's step back into our corners. Let's come back and have the conversation. And we were able to do that. So it was very collaborative.
Yeah, most wouldn't view divorce as a collaborative process. Usually acrimonious, fighting, stakes in the ground. So,
and it was just a clear line for her. I mean, obviously for me, I knew, but I think she knew that line had been crossed, and this is the next thing. I mean, the night I told her, she said, well, we're going to put the house on the market. I mean, she's very much, the business of...
Do you think she thought through the what if already and maybe had a plan in her head?
I don't think so, but I wouldn't know that.
Okay.
I would be surprised. I think it was a pretty big surprise.
How did the children react when you told them?
I remember them coming into the house. In our house, I was in the front bedroom by then, so it was just those few days. And we had told them already. So they would come and say hi to me, and Mom was in the back of the house, and I would say, go take care of your mother. I have a support group. I had lots of friends in the city where I live. Can I say Dallas? Okay, sure. I have lots of friends in Dallas. I had a wonderful support network, and I just said to them, go support your mom. I'm going to be fine. We'll work this out. And so the two that were local, that was good. My oldest son has some special needs, and he was mad for about 5 minutes. And then he was like, oh, well, I know gay people. Of course you're going to get a divorce. That's what gay people, they want to be with other gay people. And so it was just an interesting dynamic. And so, again, we've had a better relationship than we've ever had in our lives.
You said you delayed coming out, let's do it a year. What was the biggest fear maybe of doing it earlier? I
do not know. And that is my answer. Don't ask me that. I look back and think, what was I thinking that I needed to do differently, feel differently? There was literally nothing I could think of that would change. And again, that's when my friend said, then why are you waiting? And I think it was just, I do have a strong emotional side. And I think that I could tend to make decisions emotionally. And yet you look back and say, okay, well, you've had like 30 years that you've been thinking about this. So what's going to change? So anyway, I have no idea why I thought I should wait a little while longer, but I did.
Your son said, I know gay people and they want to be with other gay people. And somewhere along the way, you met someone named Peter.
I did.
So tell me, how did that happen?
Can we say scruff on that?
Sure.
So we met online.
Okay.
a bit of the story. He was in town with a family member who was going through some medical stuff. And when that person had access to kind of think of a Ronald McDonald House kind of thing.
Okay.
And we would have been 17 miles away, let's say. You know how that works. That would be like 17 pages down. Mm-hmm. And but they couldn't get them in. And so they moved to a hotel that was about a mile from me. Oh. And so he said hello. I said hello. We chatted and chatted and chatted and chatted. We had dinner together. And frankly...
So he wasn't from Dallas then?
Wasn't from Dallas. Frankly, he was at a time of transition. And we just talked about it and said, this is probably the dumbest thing we've ever done. But what if we moved in together? And so we met, and 3 weeks later, we moved in. Because we said, you know what? We're almost 60 years old. If you move in, you can move out. And so we're going to try it and see what happens. And that was 10 months ago.
No.
And it's been, I'm embarrassed sometimes to tell people how happy I am. I'm like, hey.
Why?
Because it's just like, that's all you ever talk about. Of course it is. It's the most amazing thing. Think of all of the authenticity and joy of coming out, and then add a relationship with someone who you get and who gets you, and you support and they support you. It's just...
So how does that feel compared to the 30 years before?
I want to be careful here, because I did have a wonderful relationship with my ex. We raised kids together. We worked well together. I remember throwing my daughter's wedding, lots of stress. We pretty much did it ourselves. Just the joy of supporting each other, and that she was my very best friend in my life. But hey, David, do I have to say it out loud? It's all of that and just this passionate. And I've heard guys, there's kind of this area of the internet or whatever where there are guys that just want to be with a man, but they're attracted to women. That is not me. I'm very much attracted to men and to masculine, the whole thing, not just the physical aspect. And so there's the physical aspect, and then there's also just the fact that it's just, it's really amazing. Yeah.
So being married to Peter now, what does that taught you about love and relationships?
We were probably in the restaurant the first night, and I said, what are you looking for? And maybe I was asking a different question than he answered.
Not which salad you would order.
That wasn't it.
Okay.
He said, I want someone who loves me as much as I love them, and who will stay and talk about it when things go wrong. Mm. And the more I've thought about that, isn't that what all of us want? To be perfectly frank, not much has gone wrong. We haven't had a lot of experience with the second one, but when it has happened, we stay and we talk about it. And why did that affect you that way? And even when it's done, hey, something you said hurt me, and I want you to understand, maybe you said it, but also know the baggage is back there. So all of that to say...
Communication.
The communication. And I think that you don't have that when I was married at 23. You don't have that skill. And at 60, I think we've just seen so much. And so we go, you know what? I can bury this, but I've seen what happens when you bury it. I would rather, even as hard as it is, we were talking about our vows, and we shared our vows at our wedding. I think we both, in some form or fashion, said, I will tell you the hard stuff, no matter what it is. If it will take us to higher heights or bring us deeper depths, we will talk about the stuff that is hard. And there have been days that I haven't wanted to say something, and I said to him, I need us to talk about this. As much as I'm kind of embarrassed or I'm a little reticent to, I made a promise to you that we would talk these things through. So it's just, I don't think it's a difference of her or him. Mm-hmm. I think it's a difference of where we are in life. And I think it's a difference of a different kind of committed. To a certain extent, I've never thought of it this way. I think I was committed to marriage before, and now I'm committed to Peter. For me, that's a significant facet that is different.
So a cultural expectation versus a person.
Yep. Someone else I love dearly in my world said, Dad, so there's a hint.
Yeah.
Relationship rules are made up. They're all made up.
That's right.
Even one man, one woman is made, it's all made up. So don't sit and try to fit into somebody else's box. And that was in the context of them fighting about Peter, So that was very free.
So if you could sit down with a version of yourself, let's say 10 years ago, what would you tell David of 10 years ago?
Two things. You are way too scared of too many things. And she'll be fine. Now, I'll be honest, 10 years ago, kids still at home, that kind of thing. But I still would have told myself that. When the time is right, she'll be fine. I waited too long. Some would say I should have done it when I was 18, but we've talked about that. But once my kids were out of the house, that was probably the spot. And I held on several more years. But I think the message I would say is the number one concern you have is how it will affect her. And she is strong and she will be okay.
What do you think people misunderstand about men coming out later in life?
Well, first, that we decided to be gay. We finally decided to be gay.
Oh, it is an option, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I just bought a shirt that says, the only decision I ever made was to be myself. It's very rainbowy.
That's sweet.
So what they misunderstand is that I decided to be gay, or look, you made it this far. Why would you give all of that up?
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually a fair question. I wondered for a long time, why would I give all of that up? So I applaud the question, but how do you explain,
Yeah. What do you think is actually better for you than what you imagined it would be?
Everything.
Everything. Okay.
Damn thing.
Okay.
We talked about authenticity in the workplace. And I remember I told my boss, who I really care about, and when I told her, we were on a call, and I told her I don't want to do video. It was kind of COVID, still some of that. And I said, I don't want to do video, but I didn't tell you. And I sobbed. It was the floodgates that came. And she just loved me through it. She said, I think you can tell the rest of the team, that's up to you. And I was like, I don't think I'll ever do that. And then I did. And then it was. So I think what surprised me, I forgot what the question was, but what surprised me is how many people, Christians and non-Christians, loved me and supported me and cared for me. I make the distinction. Evangelicals gave me a goodbye. Many, 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 many Christians embraced me and cared for me all the way through it.
Why did you choose to tell your coworkers?
I think when something changes so massively in your life, as I said, it affects everything. Peter says, I'm compelled to tell everything. So I have been known to tell people at the grocery store. So that being said, These are people I cared about. These are people that I loved. And it felt weird to hide something so significant.
Okay.
So yeah, it felt, at first it felt very scary. And then it just felt right.
So what's one thing that was harder than you thought it would be?
One thing that was harder. I think learning to be by myself. I'm very social. So I moved into the apartment. And I remember the first night being just like ecstatic. I stayed up late. Whatever I wanted to do. But then having day by day, I'm still alone. I had friends and we did stuff, but I went home alone. And that year or so of just like, I'm going to find me in here. What do I want to do? What is important to me? What works for me? And I think, maybe some people say you need to do that for 5 years, but I did it for a year and it was harder and perhaps more rewarding than I recognized was going to be.
Did you feel you got a better understanding of yourself during that year?
Yep. And I think it's really is. And I absolutely adore being a dad. I love it more than anything. But there's a sense in which, as a husband and a father, that you do what is good for us.
Right.
And for a while to sit back and go, I'm going to say yes to the things I want to say yes to, and I'm going to say no to the things I don't want to do. And I'm not doing that for somebody else. But it was hard. Again, sister, we're super close. Shout out to Cindy. And she won't mind 1 million times. She will love it that she has got mentioned. But often she would say, go take yourself on a date.
Uh-huh.
And I would text her later and say, he took me to the greatest movie. We went and had ice cream, and then we had sex when we got home. And she was like, woo.
I love that.
Yes.
There's actually a good book about dating the boyfriend inside.
That's awesome.
You understand yourself.
That was her
and take care of yourself.
encouragement. Yep.
So this show is called Out Late with David. Mm-hmm. What does out late mean to you today? Ooh.
That whole late is so difficult because should I have come out sooner? I'm going to say in a broad sense, probably so. I feel late. I feel like I should have done it sooner. I'm not one who says that I wish that I had done it when I was 18 because of the culture, but also because I would not trade my family for the world. That being said, I feel like it was late in that there were probably some junctures that it would have made more sense and given everybody more time, myself included. But I'm trying to be aware that the late part of it comes out is maybe some of the difficulty and the pain that have been caused by me coming out. And I've had to leave that to the people affected. There's only so much I can do to say, I'm going to try to help you through this. At a certain point, it isn't up to me to help them through it. It's up to them to move through it. And so I think that for me, the late, being out late, it is, maybe there's a tinge of regret, not because I wish I could have done something sooner, but just would there have been a better time? Maybe not that I know of.
It's hard to roll back time.
Yeah, you can't. You can't do it.
So now we're going to jump into kind of a Out Late with David speed round.
Okay, let's hear it.
Quick little question.
Okay.
Short little answer.
You can tell how good I'm going to be at this.
Southern Baptist potluck or gay brunch?
Oh my God, gay brunch a million times.
First gay stereotype you accidentally became?
Flaming colors, more colorful than my...
The shirt you had on yesterday. Wow. On your birthday, by the way. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
The most unexpectedly gay purchase after coming out?
This is not short, but not long. I somehow got on a thing where I could test toys, and and they were free, and they would send them to me. That was very unexpected.
Okay.
I had no idea.
That
has since ended. Go ahead.
What's more intimidating, telling your wife that you're gay or assembling IKEA furniture?
1 million times my wife that I'm gay.
Okay. First alcoholic drink after coming out?
Lemon drop martini.
Ooh, good choice.
Still one I like.
If your life were a movie, who plays David?
Oh, I'd like to think like Tom Hanks, because he's kind of a baby face. And
what's the one thing about dating men nobody warned you about?
Toothpaste in the sink. Little things, just the little things. And yet those are the things that I go, oh, yeah.
What's more important, chemistry or communication?
Communication. Chemistry is important.
What's your husband's most annoying habit?
Toothpaste in the sink. No, that's probably, he doesn't have any annoying habits. He gets hangry. Don't we all? Maybe that's it. I don't know.
What's one thing straight people don't realize about gay relationships?
It's not the sex. It is the sex, but
it's not.
It's so much more.
Biggest thing you gained after coming out?
Me.
Biggest thing you lost?
There's a child that some grandkids, that's the hardest for sure.
One word your kids would use to describe you today?
Happy.
One word your ex-wife would use?
Selfish.
One word your husband would use?
Sexy.
One word you describe yourself?
Free.
Free. So you spent decades trying not to be gay. Today you're married to Peter, living openly. When you look back at that younger version of yourself, what do you hope he finally understands?
That you're okay. You're not too much. You are who you are supposed to be, and you don't have to apologize for that. And all the fears, while they might be real to a certain extent, they're not nearly as big as you thought.
They're not as big as you thought.
Yeah.
Wayne, thank you for sharing your story today.
Yeah, this has been great.
We know these stories help others, people on the journey or about to take the journey, unsure of themselves. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
But that's all for today. Thanks for listening. And until next time, because it's never too late, this is Out Late with David.
To find all episodes and resources for coming out later in life, visit outlatewithdavid.com. That's outlatewithdavid.com, your go-to source for inspiration, support, and real stories.
To hear more episodes, visit outlatewithdavid.com. And to learn more about personal life coaching services, go to davidcottoncoaching.com.